putting your potential New South Wales assistant coach back on, let's go back and have a look at some very early Origin team predictions. Let's try and get him first and get another headline for Benny. We've had the injury crisis, so we've lost Payne Haas. Turbo went down, unfortunately, for his 8th hamstring. Who else did we lose? Carraz. Lomax has left. There's players. Liam Martin's gone down. Is there anyone, you might just touch on a couple of key spots and just get your thoughts on who might come in with very little notice and see what you think. So, first off top of the head. All right. James Tedesco's on a heater at the moment. Do you like him for fullback, or has Edwards done the job there?
I don't think there's any reason to move Dill Edwards. Obviously, the concern there is you're trying to work out that other winger.
Edwards has played on the wing for Australia, which is an easy way out of picking both too.
Yeah, and I suppose you've got even young Tommy Jenkins, who's killing it. Whether that's a big call, I don't know. And there's still. How long we got? There's another 4, 5, 6 weeks.
About 4 weeks until the team.
Yeah, so there's still a bit, and that in one circumstance that seems quite quick, but there's a lot can happen. Like we just looked over the weekend, you can go, he's gone. So, I suppose the thing is you go. I think if you're just looking at fullback, I'd have Dill there. I just think he's sort of built for Origin. Teddy is as well, like he's done that for so many years. But I think now that they've made the change, and Teddy's sort of back end, is he going to finish in the next year too? I don't know. So you've made a change. You've brought Dylan. There's no reason to drop him, really. I don't think he's playing awesome footy again this year, and so I don't think you move him. Obviously that wing, if they said, I would have picked Turbo because I think Turbo fit is the best fullback in the game, bar none. I think he's there, but I also have seen him and played with him in Origin where he's also got the game awareness that you can actually put him on a wing or something, but give him freedom to roam and go around, and he's smart enough to understand when he needs to be out there, when he can come in and do that. So I thought if he was there, that becomes a good option.
Got Mark Nawong and Nita Wase. I think that's probably got a valid case. It just depends if you go, but he's going off to rugby. But I think you just pick the best team you can.
100% you pick the best team.
I think that's who I'd go with, Tyro, personally.
Especially, I reckon that'd be hard to argue with he's a big body too, to get you out of backfield and stuff like that, But if you've got, if you've got Brian Toto, Dill Edwards, they're both going to run for hundreds of metres for you, getting out and doing the hard stuff, And then you add Mark there, that's hard to argue with that. I'm not sure exactly all the other ones. Obviously, as I said, there's that Tom Jenkins, who I know it's early, but it's hard to fault him at the moment, the way he's playing.
Yeah. And then you go Stephen Crichton, assuming he'll be right to go, and Latrell in the centres. Would you go halves? You'd go Cleary Moses, or would you go one of them and Luai? Or
Cleary Moses. Cleary Moses. I think the way they need to play, I think Mitch Moses.
Last year, would you play Moses first receiver? And
I think they're both got to play. The Origin side, they need to not play out the back off their middles. I think that's the biggest downfall. I think State of Origin, the halves need to be flat, get the ball in their hand. As soon as you get momentum on the front foot, get the ball in your hand, get over the ad line with guys asking questions of the defence. So I'll be talking to both the halves about playing like that.
So just a different structure and attack than what we've been doing the last few years, you reckon?
Yeah, well, I just think everyone... they've fallen into that natural trap of, like Isaiah Yeo and then playing out the back and that. But I think it just, and even more so now with the way the NRL's going and how momentum based it is, that, that's all you got to do is look for momentum, quick, play the balls, ruck speed. when you've got it, get the ball in your hands as a half, go and ask questions of the defence. And, you're just looking for, you don't need to make clean breaks. You want to find one-on-one tackles. Find a one-on-one tackle, get the ball in your hands, find a one-on-one tackle again. Create that momentum and, under fatigue and that one-on-one tackle then becomes a miss. It becomes a line break and a possible opportunity to score tries, I think you look at a lot of the famous Origin tries or just a lot of Origin tries compared to NRL games. NRL games might be strip them out the back, untouched, creating an overlap. Origin tries aren't like that. They're just someone falling through a tackle, someone breaking there, someone, just missing their assignment and playing direct through.
Do you think we almost fall into the Penrith system then that works so well at NRL level, right? They are far and above the best team in the league. But do you think we almost fall into that Penrith system of Yowie out the back to Cleary, who just, and who turns a back row under and that kind of structure? Or...
Yeah, look, I don't know because I don't know what they're doing in camp and what's happening. But, yeah, I just think, and it's proven over years that that's not the way to play in State of Origin. I think Tommy did it so well last year of just ruck identification, find a quick play of the ball, because in Origin, because they don't want to play penalties and that, you get away with more. So you're allowed to hold them down that half a second longer. So you don't get as many quick play the balls. So when you get them, it's the ability to go, recognise we're on the front foot here. We need to get the ball in our hands. We need to ask some questions of the defence.
Well, the two that came to mind, we talked about the style of play of Harry Grant and Tom Dearden from last year, where they did exactly that.
Yeah.
So, actually, speaking, a easy segue. What about our hooker? Appy, Egan, Brayley, any of those? Would you try and play off the back of
Robson deserves a shout too.
Yeah, Robson was there last year. Well, look, that all depends. Obviously, first and foremost, you want a defensive hooker that can handle the defensive capabilities of Origin, because that's the last thing you want to do is give them a weakness in just getting down the field. If they've got someone they can target who's not up to the defensive side of State of Origin, then you're just always chasing your tail, because they'll just keep finding that player and struggle to get some, field position and ascendancy in that regard. And then it just depends on how you want to play. You have to have conversations with your halves. If you want the ball in your halves' hands more, do you need a hooker that does as much around the ruck, or do you want to play more around the ruck with the speed of the game, and do you want to ask questions, and do you want guys that can hold up markers and get guys in behind the ruck? You need to have a workout. Ideally, you need to work out how you're going to play, what your team, if we pick this group of players, what's the biggest strength of that, and how are we going to expose Queensland playing to that? Do we have a crafty nine who can bring guys in behind the ruck, which forces them to tighten them up? Then we can find Latrell early ball. When we get on the front foot, we just catch, whip, early ball to Latrell, Stephen Crichton, let them run into space, So, yeah, I think that's what you need to do. You need to understand how you're going to play footy, the footy that's going to work, and then you pick your players around that.
So what would you lean towards? More like a structured hooker, like a Robson?
I don't know. Who do we say the other options are? Appy.
Probably Brayley would be the most likely.
Brayley, and then Brayley's concern is obviously the defensive. Yeah. Like he's a very small body, so you might hedge towards Robbo. I don't think
Connor Watson, I suppose, is the other.
Connor Watson there, which I suppose again, most likely.
You've now got a six-man bench as well, so you're going to probably carry.
Oh, yeah, true. So, see, that's going to be so much more interesting.
Maybe a half. Maybe you carry a Luai on the bench that might not get on the field.
Mate, that'd be interesting, actually. I haven't even really thought about that, because you've got the ability. Always with the 17, the struggle was, what if something outside the box happens, because you're sort of trying to work out for every scenario. But you can sort of pick 17 on perfect best case scenario, and then out of the box comes out of that 17 that we go, oh, we can alter. Whereas that's never been the case because it's always had to be ideal scenario, yes, but we've also got to be able to cover what if a centre goes down, what if that goes, how does it all work?
So now
Whereas
you
now you
two
don't.
middles, you have a couple of it outside.
Yeah,
couple
now
of
you
just
don't have to. And you've sort of got the ability to wait and see how the game's going. Like if you're on the front foot and, you know, everything's happened at half time and then you go, you know what, they're just hanging on. We can just put someone who's powerful, bang, ripping at them, go, you know, and then, you know, that might not be a defensive play. It might be a more attacking play, you know, or geez, we've got to hang on. We need, you know, our defence is a concern, you know. So I feel like there's ways that's going to open up a whole new system in how you see it on the run too and going, look, this needs to be plugged. This is what's happening, or so-and-so, you know, so-and-so's off the mark. Then, it opens up a whole new dimension, really, doesn't it?
Half have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
So who'd be your Smoky? Who's someone you'd love to see in there? That's not necessarily a, you know...
Smoky. In terms, well, I think... I haven't seen a heap of Cronulla, but I think now, especially if Payne Haas is... I think that Adam Fanua-Blake would...
I reckon he's almost close to first
I
pick
think
now.
I think because that's almost like a like-for-like replacement sort of thing. I think, you know, it's so important to have leg speed around Origin. Players mobile with leg speed, really like Hudson Young, look of Hudson Young. Obviously you're going to have Cam Murray's going to come back into the fold. He hasn't been there.
You know what I'd love, and this is a bit of a rogue Smoky I haven't heard tossed up. I'd love to see like a Tallis Duncan on an extended bench because I love what I see from Tallis. He's a great hole runner. He can also play out in the centres. So when you talk about that flexibility, he played a lot of time in the centres when Souths had that injury crisis last year. He's just a great hole runner, doesn't miss tackles. He just screams Origin to me.
Does Jacob Preston take that role, though?
I
know you're saying, but
I'd rather Tallis personally, but...
A similar player, similar player going as well, better probably.
How's he go? The other concern is, I know when you say back rowers that can cover centres, but I think there's a difference between covering centre at NRL level where you can just do a job, or being put out under a high intensive, under the pump against the elite centres in our game. I think that can get you caught out. So.
Well, on a six-man bench, does an outside back play come on? Suddenly, do you play Teddy at 18 or 19?
Mate, like a Matt Burton, who covers your halves, covers your centres, sort of outside back there, mate, could be a very good shout.
Could do like an Ethan Strange even, which covers like halves, and you could chuck him out wide as well or bring him on through the middle.
Mate, depending on what you're doing with your nine.
Yeah. Would depend on the game as well.
You know,
what the state of the game
he's just
at the point, right?
Strong ball runner. You know, like that ball runner is his strength. You know, so someone like that, if you know the game tiring defenders and that, and you just put someone on and you just run, mate. You know. And Queensland did that for a bit. You know, they'd pick like a Cherry Evans on the bench and not really have a spot, but there was just fresh legs around the middle when everything slows down. And
it's amazing how many times they'll do it and something will come up and it'll just fall in their favour. Lucky we've got DC on the bench, or lucky we've got Dylan on the bench.
Yeah.
But I think I think you want those X Factor players coming on, the ones where your opposition are like, oh no, they're coming on. Which is why I think, like, even obviously he's a forward, but why Spencer has been so good in Origin level, because you see him warming up, and if you're a Queenslander, you go, oh, bugger, because you know he's just going to run 100 miles an hour and he's going to be difficult. He's only got a 15, 20-minute burst in him, but you know that's going to be a handful. So that's why I like those kind of X factors, those Ethan Strangers, like even Olakawatu coming on. I know when he got his go, he didn't necessarily set the world alight, but I'd love to see him get another go. Hudson Young, just players that you know are a handful.
But sometimes you only need 15. And obviously there's a lot that goes on and a lot of moving parts, but you know, if the game's going the right way, like if you get some guys on that just blowout of 15-minute, unbelievable stint. That can have a big effect on a State of Origin game. So, you know, you need, I suppose, again, they're all your decisions of going, well, how many minutes will, realistically, how many good minutes can we get out of him? How many can we get of him? Working out that we're covered, you know, the 80 minutes across that. And then, there's a heap goes into it, really, when you think about it, isn't it? The more you think, the more goes into it.
You're starting to have regrets about throwing your name out there now.
Nah, he's ready to go. Give him a chance.